Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, and we are going to be talking about 20.3 today, which is spending decisions. So, we're going to be talking about the terms purchase and spend. But before we get started on 20.3 and those definitions, I wanted to address a couple questions I've gotten about the scarcity and cost worksheet that was assigned on it's either Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember now. I have my lesson plans pulled up, but I have gotten some emails and some questions about that. So I just wanted to address it real quick. Scarcity and costs, that the worksheet that says scarcity and costs on the top. Through point 9b, all it's telling you is that what we're doing in this worksheet is describing the relationship between the availability or scarcity of resources. If something is available, that means that you can get it pretty easily. So in the previous videos, we talked about the word plentiful. Availability in this sense is being used synonymously with the word plentiful. Scarcity means there's not a whole lot of it. So we're going to be describing the relationship between the availability or the scarcity of resources and how they impact costs. So remember we talked about if something is available, the cost goes down. If something is scarce, then the cost goes up. So remember the opposite relationship that I done in my video on Monday and Tuesday. The opposite relationship is what you need to remember here. So in questions 1, 2, and 3, you're just answering questions. What is scarcity? Scarcity is when something is not readily available. There's not a whole lot of an item or a product or a good. Number 2, how does scarcity impact the cost of production? So to produce something means to manufacture it or to get it out to the consumers. So if you are someone who is wanting to buy something or purchase something, you are the consumer. So if the manufacturer, the person who's producing the good, if there is not a whole lot of something, then it probably takes a little bit more money to produce that item or that resource. So question number 2, how does scarcity impact the cost of production? If there is not a whole lot of something, the production cost is going to go up. It's still the opposite relationship. If an item is scarce, the cost of production goes up. Okay? So still, in this whole thing, when we're talking about availability and scarcity, we are talking about opposite relationships. Just remember the opposite relationship. Number 3, how does the cost of production impact the price of a good or service? So if it costs a lot of money to produce something, then that price, that cost of producing the item, then gets put onto the consumer. Meaning, the manufacturer, the person who's producing the good, is not going to do something unless they can make money from doing it. So if it costs them a lot to make something, then they're going to charge a lot for the item. Okay, so they have to make some money. It's called profit. So if they are making something and it costs a lot to make the item, they're going to charge the consumer, you who is buying the item, they're going to charge the consumer more money for that item so they can make up the cost difference, and then it's called a profit. They want to make a profit, so they're going to charge a lot for the item in order to make up the money somewhere. Okay, so that's questions 1, 2, and 3 on the scarcity versus cost. Now, it says illustrate each term. Goods versus services. Don't worry so much about the verses in the middle. This is telling you that those two are like opposites. So a good is opposite from a service. So a good is something that you that is tangible, that you can hold in your hand. So if you're paying money for something and you get something back in return that you can hold in your hands, or you can touch it, let's say a car or a house or something like that, it's a good. So that is something that you pay money for and you can actually hold it, tangible, that you receive in return from paying money for it. A service is something that you can't necessarily hold or touch. Let's say it's a haircut, or maybe a massage, or maybe a manicure, or a pedicure. Those are services. So those are things that you're paying money for. You're still paying money, but you're now paying money for something that's not tangible, that you can't touch, feel, hold, that you're not going to be able to keep forever. A haircut doesn't last forever. That's something that is considered a service. So all you're doing is illustrating the term. So for good, you would draw a picture of something that you can hold, touch, whether it be groceries or a sweatshirt or a plant or a computer. And then you're going to draw another picture, a separate picture of what a service would be. So draw yourself maybe getting a haircut, or draw yourself maybe getting a massage. You're just illustrating those terms. The only reason that they are next to each other with the word versus in the middle is because it's kind of saying that those terms are related and that they're opposites. Again, with the next line down, increase versus decrease. Draw something that will help you remember what the word increase means. Increase means go up. So draw an arrow going up. That is perfectly fine. It's just any picture that will help you remember or help you think of that word when you are when you're using it in a sentence or using it in a problem. Okay, so that's the scarcity and costs worksheet. Hopefully that helps answer some questions there. We're now going to go on to 20.3, which is spending decisions. The 2 words that you need to fill in. Oh, let me actually, real quick, I also wanted to tell you the words scarce and plentiful are not in your Go Math book, but you can look them up online. Just go to like Kids Dictionary or type in dictionary.com and then search for the word scarce and plentiful. You can use those words from online, or if you have a dictionary at your house. All the other words will be found in your Go Math book except for those 2 words, which you can find anywhere. I am okay with you using a dictionary to define those words. I don't want you to use your own words for this vocabulary journal. I would like for you to use an actual definition from somewhere. I don't care if it's the Go Math book or a dictionary or something that you found online, but not your own words for the vocabulary journal. Okay, now we're going to get on to 20.3, which is spending decisions. So the 2 words, like I said, are purchase and spend. To purchase something is, and so I'm reading it straight from the Go Math book, which is what you're going to be doing today. To purchase is to obtain by paying money for an item or a service. So to obtain means to get something. So to purchase means that you are spending money to receive something in return, whether that be an item, which I was just discussed as a good, or a service. And I want to make sure that you understand that purchase means you are actually spending money. This is not trading. So trading is different when you have something to give someone else. So let's say, I love your sweater. Well, I like your sweater too. If we're trading, you haven't purchased anything. Although you have received something in return, you are not purchasing something because you're not spending money. So there actually has to be money spent for it to be considered a purchase. And again, to purchase something means that you're going to give somebody money, and they're either going to give you a good, which is an item, something that you can hold, touch, feel, see, or a service in return. Okay, when you spend money to purchase something, you give it to someone else in exchange for something. So spending money means you are actually giving your money to someone. So to spend money is the purchase and spend are pretty similar in this unit 20.3. But again, I'm going to read it. When you spend money to purchase something, so purchase is used in this sentence. So you're spending money to purchase something. You give it to someone else, give the money in exchange for something else. In 20.3, there are going to be a lot of calculations where you're going to have to decide when to spend money, when you are able to spend money, and then like how quickly you can afford something. So the examples in the book are really good. Also on your Go Math, there is something called a interactive student edition, and we've played those videos in class before. I would like for y'all to, if you can, log on to the Go Math website, and there's a student edition where you're finding the actual like workbook pages, and then there's something called an interactive student edition, and it will actually walk you through and kind of teach you some of the lessons, and that's what we use in class where before we start the lesson. So if you can do that, that would be awesome. There are 2 other things that are discussed in 20.3. It's planned spending and unplanned spending. So planned spending refers to something that you have that you're trying to like save up for. So if I wanted to buy a new car or I wanted to buy a new house, those are things that I want to purchase in the future. And so I'm going to come up with some kind of savings plan that I want to spend that money on. So I can, that's considered planned. I'm planning for it. I'm planning for the future. So I want to save up my money and then spend that money like I planned to spend. Unplanned spending are things that you haven't accounted for, that you haven't thought of. So maybe there's a flood or some kind of natural disaster, or maybe you break your arm and you have to go to the doctor. I didn't plan to spend that money, but it is still money that I have to spend. So you have to also, we're going to talk about budget and saving in the next unit. I think it's either 20.4 or 20.5. But that's not part of this unit. But so borrowing and credit is the next unit. But when you are coming up with a savings plan, coming up with some way of trying to manage your money, you definitely want to think about things that you're planning for, like you're putting money aside for planned expenses, and then you're also putting money aside for unplanned things that you don't necessarily know are going to happen, but if they do, you need to have some money set aside for that. So those are two examples. On the first page of 20.3, it discusses things about planned spending and then unplanned spending. Okay. This unit does a really good job of breaking it down. You can screenshot this picture if you're having trouble with any of the questions. These are the answers. So if you need to screenshot this, go back and pause it. I don't want you copying the answers, but if you need some help on it, this is a good screen to copy. But I wanted to point out that it does a really good job of giving you blanks to fill in. So it kind of helps walk you through each of the steps that you would take to answer these questions. So it's not just throwing a question at you. It actually gives you step by step on how to answer this to kind of help you to figure out like all the different steps. A lot of these questions are multi-step problems, which we have done before: addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. These are word problems. The only difference between these word problems and the word problems we've done in the past it's involving money. So every question is going to have dollar signs with it. Other than that, if you took the dollar signs out, these would be the exact same questions as what we've seen in the past. They are multi-step problems, so you need to be using your cubes wherever you can, circling the numbers, boxing the keywords, underlining the question. Make sure you're taking apart the question, breaking it down, really understanding what it's asking. Make a list when you can, because that helps you to organize your information. But again, these questions, like you see here on question number 4, it walks you through and gives you blanks for each step as you should be solving it. So do your best to fill out each of the blanks. That will help you to solve. If that doesn't help you, you don't have to fill out the blanks, but you should be showing your work somewhere in this white space, and then your final answer would go on the line. Okay, if you have any questions about 20.3, please feel free to reach out to me. My office hours are between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. So if you need to message me or call me on Teams to discuss any of this, I am more than happy to discuss that with you. Today is Wednesday. I'm recording this in the morning, so I will see you guys on the Zoom call at 12 today. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Bye, guys.